Hello, another
Hi.
episode. Another episode, but this time we actually saw some cars racing.
Yes,
Dad?
we did.
The thing that everyone's going to talk about is how dominant did the Red Bull look? And quite honestly, it's not moving around a lot. It's very stable. And I know we're not supposed to look at the times for these sessions, but top of the charts.
Once they got off the white wall tires, they seemed to dominate.
Yeah, yeah,
They weren't. They were a bit slidey on the white walls, which I think everyone was as well.
yeah. I remember that too from the first session.
And but once they went on the yellows, they really moved forward.
Yeah, on the
And
track right now, it's a very bouncy track. You can see it in a lot of the other teams' car. Red Bull, yes, it bounces here and there, but that's just because there's actual bumps on the road. It looks so stable going down the straight. It doesn't wobble, and it looks like the older cars that wouldn't wobble, 2021 era. And I mean, the zero side pod design is something that's going to potentially become a Red Bull design now, and that's got to have Mercedes just going crazy.
well, did Mercedes lose a zero side pod design purely on suspension? That's the question.
Possibly. Also, their ride position was very awkward.
Yeah.
It was very forward. So I mean, they had a decent idea probably, and then played catch up, and then just said, "Screw it, we're going with the Red Bull design." And there's a famous moment 2 years ago, Newey looking at the Mercedes. And usually, you see an engineer standing by another team's car, shoo him away, They were letting him just stand there, look at their car, write some stuff up, probably hoping, hey, he might come here one day. He's looking at
Yeah.
our car like he's very interested.
And
Two
then there
years
was a
later, we're seeing this zero side pod design. It's not right there right now, but apparently they're going to develop into it.
Yeah, and if you notice on the Red Bull, they've basically got three air inlets
Mhm.
per side of car. They
Yeah.
got the normal one, which in their case has now got a big over bite on the cover of the air. Then they got one down at the side, and then one which flows in with the rollover bar
Yeah. So
halo.
it's a very aggressive looking car. Something I notice is when you look at it on a straight, it's got this weird shape going on where it isolates the pod of the driver, the halo, in a way where it's just like it doesn't look like any of the other cars. It's got this like weird out scoop
Yeah,
around it. And it's essentially close to the zero pod design, but with a little bit of a pod. And I mean, you look at the aero design throughout the practice sessions or the testing sessions, and they had this. It just looks, you look at a Haas, you go, okay, that looks like a Formula One car. And then you look at the close ups of this Red Bull, and you're like, wow, there's just so much more going on with the airflow direction underneath. Not necessarily, it's like you look at the front wing, and then behind it, kind of where the driver's sitting, you see all this intricate wind directing
yeah.
stuff for probably air going into the floor. And it's just insane. The thing looks aggressive, and it's stable and fast.
And unfortunately for Mercedes today, they lost a lot of time this morning
Yeah, they were
on
doing
track.
some weird stuff with George. He did like 19 laps, and then that was it for a while.
Yeah. And then they were playing around with the front suspension
Yeah.
tremendously.
Yeah, so
Maybe trying to get rid of the bouncing.
it's testing. We don't know what's going on. It could have been them actually doing exactly what they needed in those first 19 laps and then saying, "Okay, take all that equipment off the car. Let's try this completely different thing." I have noticed, however, correct me if I'm wrong. So far, it's only been Max for the Red Bull and George for the Mercedes testing. Correct?
Yeah, because No, I think McLaren just had.
No, they've swapped. They had Piastri in the first session, Norris in the second.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say their lap numbers were down, but Red Bull had 141 laps.
Yeah, and it's very similar to what they did last year,
Yeah,
where it's like rather than play this sandbagging game that Mercedes is always famous for during their domination, they just go out there and they just do lap after lap. It's such a good time because your wind tunnel is not going to do the thing. Your CAD, essentially your 3D programs in the computer, they can't simulate things perfectly. Why not do all these crazy amounts of laps? Like right now you can. I don't and fill me in. If they're let's say they blew a gearbox, does that factor into the season or are they pretty much
no, everything they're using now, it's redundant.
yeah, so they can
It's
just
not.
throw right now they could throw money at their problems
Yeah. Well,
without
within the budget.
repercussion? Okay, within the budget, but there's no season long penalties
No,
like
no. So if you blow an engine or you blow a gearbox, no problems.
so
Long exhaust.
why not go bonkers?
Yeah, yeah. When the cars race next week, they will um, be all new components. It will be
Oh yeah.
totally.
Oh yeah.
The only thing that might be the same is the chassis.
Most of the body shape is going to be similar. Like you're not going to
Yeah,
see many drastic changes because the first
but
few.
all the suspension components, all the engine components, everything, anything that's changing, the chassis will remain the same, mostly the body parts.
Suspension.
But I'm still thinking we're going to see something on that Red Bull front nose.
Oh, wider, smaller.
Well, they've got a patch over it at the moment, but I'm not convinced that that's the final version we're going to see.
Okay.
And but we'll see.
Um.
Um, they've
Okay.
got the Mercedes top element on their front wing, which I'd say they must have had it approved because otherwise
Hmm.
their season will be screwed with that very thin wire.
I forget who the guy was, but he was a very technical former engineer for a bunch of different teams. He was in the second session. He talks for a while, and to be fair, I was doing some of my other monitor while that was going on. So I was half listening, but he was explaining how it's kind of like a gray area, and if enough attention gets put on it, they might have to contest it, or it's going to be a place where the FIA is going to look at it and
Yeah.
say, "What's going on here? Is this creating outwash? We don't want outwash. Got to replace it." But that said, it's a front wing. I wouldn't say that's going to massively affect the entire project, but it's just
Well,
an idea that they're trying.
what they were saying is by removing that, the air which actually flows in is now they've got a tunnel going into their pods.
Well, I thought it was
But
pushing the air out
but
around the
it will
tires.
also push the other air they don't want. It goes outwards.
Yeah, yeah.
It directs the other air straight in.
Okay.
So
So essentially, it's
they get
splitting
away.
air
Yeah, splitting air and getting it away.
around the
Which
tire.
and that's not supposed to happen.
Right.
They're supposed to keep the air within the the envelope of the car as much as possible. So we'll find out. If it works, great.
Good for them.
A lot of other teams will copy it. If it doesn't work,
Yeah, once teams start copying it, that's probably when the hammer goes down. When like, nope, nope, we don't like this.
and they can't get cars to pass again.
Right? Yeah. Well, I mean, not a lot of rule changes this year.
No, there's
Not
not really.
many going. Oh, there's like there's always going to be a little bit of
Well, they changed the fuel again, so
fuels
that's why
different. Yeah.
we can do a little bit of work on the engines and so on.
Apparently, this is fully not fully, but the fuel is much more renewable. It's a
Yeah.
lot better for the environment. So that's an exciting premise.
And
Um,
but I think by 2026, that's when it is fully renewable fuels.
yeah, so they've made good progress on it. They thought the whole world's promising by 2030 they're going to have all that figured out.
Yeah.
But by actually having high quality racing fuel that's renewable, I mean, that's amazing. Now, is it sustainable for the world? That we don't know. But it's
Well,
cool that they're trying because it we know the trickle down effect. Formula One does it first, and then 10 years later, it's in every road car.
well, you've seen what's happened over here in the States. The tailpipe requirements have been dropped a little bit down because they're not going to have enough charging stations, they're not having enough generation of electricity. So saying that 60% of the cars are going to be new cars are going to be EVs by 2030 is a great idea, maybe,
It's
but if you haven't got the electricity to provide for those vehicles, what the hell's the point?
I think Formula One really demonstrates that it's not. You don't want to go pure electric.
No.
When Formula E first started, they would have multiple cars. They would hop out of one, go into another. That's how they recharge because it just takes too long. And when nowadays they're able to do it on one single charge, but it shows that one, it Formula One cars are both essentially hybrid power, where you've got gas powered engine plus an electric thing to boost it, and you've got it in those
And
crazy hypercars. But in a road vehicle, that's going to end up just being do 200 miles on your electric and then use the gas tank in your car to recharge it.
yeah,
That's, I mean,
well,
whatever. That's Formula One leading us into the future.
yeah.
It's very exciting stuff.
But the big question is, are the teams going to start complaining because of Red Bull, the Racing Bulls, or Visa Cash Card, whatever you want to
They're
call
calling
them,
themselves RB. So,
RB? And because if they end up fourth on the grid, the McLaren is going to start screaming even louder.
yeah, McLaren's been annoyed ever since their late season upgrade last year, and that's where they had those massive gains.
Yeah,
That said, they were really looking at this RB car. It doesn't copy much. Like, sure, it has parts from Red Bull, but Mercedes does that with Williams, and Haas does that with Ferrari. So it's essentially it's in that game, but the RB is not a carbon copy of the
no,
Red Bull from last year.
but
In fact, it's gone in its own design direction.
what they're insinuating is that they can help each other with their aero designs.
Right, like the
Oh, I'll
floor.
test this and this, you test that, and
Uh,
copy the ideas.
That's the whole thing. They've been doing that. Ferrari's been doing that. Mercedes has been doing that. Red Bull has set themselves up to be able to do it. It's been a sneaky thing, and McLaren, of course, and Alpine, I'm sure, is gonna complain about it because they don't have that same setup.
No, but
That's also their own fault for not manufacturing their whole entire car.
I know they turn around and say in the Mercedes wind tunnel, the Aston Martin has one door, but all the control systems are not duplicated separate for Aston Martin. They are
Yeah,
sitting in the same booth in the end of the day.
yeah.
So and that's maybe why Mercedes is not saying much.
Well, it's just they know they have that system going on. They don't really see the point in complaining about it. It's an active thing. They've got Williams, and if they start raising noise to about Red Bull, of course it's going to eventually bite themselves in the butt.
Mind you, this year Williams is making its own gearbox and rear suspension.
This is James Voll's first car,
Yeah,
technically. And I mean, he was pretty high up engineer for Mercedes when he was there. So,
yeah.
guys clearly got a good idea of what he's doing. That said, like we already said it, Red Bull looks really good right now. Williams not having a great testing session so far.
No, and Sargent going off track big time didn't help that.
Right? Yeah, went off track, but that was, I mean, that happened. But Albon didn't have a great time out there. Um, but we'll see. We don't really know much about these cars. Um,
Yeah. So
they
it'll be
all look
interesting.
good. Honestly, I'll say the Alpine and the McLaren, they're looking boring with all that carbon, definitely the Alpine. The Alpine's just mostly carbon, and it's
Oh, it didn't.
bad. It's
It didn't.
so obvious.
It wasn't handling very well either.
Was oh yeah, yeah, I saw
They were having
Akon struggling a
troubles
little
with
bit.
that car. Uh, One thing I'll say about the Stake F1,
Oh,
whatever they call,
oh,
at least
I
you can
love
see
it.
it.
I love the color. It's vibrant. It looks good. Yes, there's carbon in that design, but man, oh man, does it stand out. And I like it. I
So
like it.
you're not going to, like last year, there was that dark red and black. You're not going to mistake it for anything else.
Now the
That
yeah.
you'll see.
Oh yeah,
And,
instantly.
and to be honest, you'll see the RB as well. Uh,
Yeah.
that'll stand out.
Hopefully,
Although,
and they were saying this as the teams progress with their designs throughout the year. Hopefully, they add more paint
yes,
because right now they're like doing everything they can to go in the weight limit. But as they get upgrades, they're going to cut weight. It just happens. So hopefully, they introduce more paint throughout the season.
what I
It's
would
a bit
like to,
ridiculous,
what I'd like the FIA to do is turn around and say the car has got to be 90% painted.
like the surface area,
Yeah,
not amount of paint weight, just surface
no,
area. Yeah,
just it's got to be 100% painted, one or the other,
no
because
exposed carbon.
yeah, no exposed carbon because it's horrible.
Yeah, no, I think the McLaren looks bad. Definitely on the side, and it's a cool color. It's the same thing with the Stake F1 team.
Yeah,
They have a
but
vibrant
again,
color. The McLaren has a vibrant color, but so much black.
but
In
if you're
it's too
looking at the
much.
head on, you can see it's a McLaren straight away.
Yeah, but you see, it's a couple of orange stripes here and there.
Yeah,
I think hopefully as the season goes
Ferrari look
on,
good.
yeah, Ferrari looks great. A little yellow,
I think they've got the best scheme.
color scheme.
Yeah,
I mean, that's subjective.
they
We can
haven't
talk
got
about that all
okay.
day.
They haven't got as much black as everyone else.
They don't have much. They should be the hey, everyone copy Ferrari. That's what we want. The only team that's pulled it off properly was the green car, Stake
Yeah,
F1.
the
Like
green just
Alpine,
looks
just Alpine's got all this celebrity endorsement left and right, and ugh, you have all these artists giving you money, and you come up with the most ugly. Oof,
yeah.
ugh. Uh,
Well, they apparently they've got more power out of their engine. They've done it by a little bit of remapping,
right.
better exhaust system,
Mhm.
more free flowing, and you think, come on, guys, that should have happened beginning of these frozen regulations. You should have nailed that.
I feel like remapping your engine can be done in the middle of the season.
Oh yeah, you can always remap it electronically, but they've
Yeah,
done remapping it. They've improved the efficiency of their turbochargers, and
yeah, they
they've got
struggled there
more
last year.
they've got more straight pipe length, so they get a freer flowing exhaust, which gains them power.
Yeah, I mean that does address the big problems they had last year.
But the question being is, they froze the engines back in 2021.
Yeah,
Why is it taking them till 2024 to go, oh guys, if we do this, we get more power? I'm sorry.
well, that the management has been all over the place. Let's be honest. We're just glad they're there.
Yeah, that's true. But the engines are done in France, and that's not that's totally separate.
Yeah,
So
Haas, you know,
as they were doing good lap times,
okay
but
lap times, but they reckon they're going
what
to be behind.
they
The
reckon
car
they'll be
doesn't
back.
look too great. They're it doesn't look good for Haas right now.
Well, I think Haas got summed up by the sensors they had on the behind the front wheel. One, they only had it on one side.
Oh, but the Flovis.
No, the the sensors they have, those metal crating that they have,
Yeah.
and it fell loose.
Ugh.
You know,
Well, I,
it's
I
supposed
I
to.
understand it, do because Sam, what's the technical guy that for F1 TV?
Oh yeah, Sam Collins, I think, isn't
Sam
it?
Collins explained, why do they only have Flovis on one side of the wing? Why do they only have this thing? The car is identical.
Yeah,
So sometimes it's they want to have they were having fun with they're just saving on paint. No, they're just looking at how the track affects one side of the car. What can they do? Blah blah blah.
that's
But for the
understandable.
sensor to fall off, that's so bad.
But for them to be wobbling up and down, which means they got no accurate reading.
Right, exactly. Yeah, they're just throwing a piece of paper out
And
on their car.
it wasn't until Kevin Magnussen went, "Hey guys, this is moving. I'm coming in for you to fix it," that they said anything about it. It really is amateur talent.
Yeah, I hopes aren't up for them. But I mean, Steak F1 looks good. They're
Yeah,
calling him Sauber a lot now in
yeah,
the broadcasts.
yeah. But
Um, they look good. The Red Bull RBs look good. I'm just turning. Williams had a bad time, but arguably their car looked competitive.
yeah, but they had some reliability issues on their gearbox and suspension because that's their gearbox and suspension,
Yeah, well, the
not
suspension's
Mercedes.
copied off of Mercedes.
No, no, they've gone their own way this time.
Now they have the push push.
Okay, they've got the same, but it's they've not like Aston Martin just buy the gearbox and suspension from Mercedes.
Well, yeah,
They're
yeah,
not buying any of that from Mercedes.
yeah. Oh, and they finally got a new wheel. They don't have
Oh,
that
so
weird. They don't have that weird cutout one anymore.
oh good.
they have a
So
new
they've
one.
gone normal.
Yeah, they've gone normal. Yeah, screen on the steering wheel.
Yeah, yeah. It's only taken them 20 years.
Yeah. But yeah, lap times. McLaren's look good. Alonso looked pretty good in the Aston.
Yeah,
Mercedes looking but I think they've just had a bad testing day. Red Bull
yeah.
obviously looks dominant. Ferrari looks shaky but fast. They really need. They're the one team. If you look at them, goes, why haven't they fixed this bouncing thing yet? Everyone else has.
Well, apart from Mercedes.
Mercedes is struggling with it too. And again, that might be this track is so bumpy that whatever. But
It could be, but when you see the ultra smooth,
oh man, yeah, must have
and
been
they have
so easy to drive for Max.
and because they have updated their suspension at the front,
Yep.
not much, but a little bit, so it should be good to see.
Yeah,
Um,
and again, testing is testing. At the end of the day, Yuki Tsunoda went second, and everyone went crazy, and then he had a whole really bad rookie year. Um, Testing is testing, but the cars that like I think Aston Martin is the biggest bluffer in the offseason because they said, yeah, our car's not going to really be much better. It's just going to be okay. Don't expect much, and then here they are looking competitive. Alonso's whipping that thing around.
and he was actually complaining. He said the amount of testing is not right. Why can't we have two cars? We've got two cars
Oh,
here.
yeah.
We've got two cars here because they're all geared up for the race next
I
week.
see what you mean. So rather than 10 cars going around runs like a
Why
practice
not
session.
20?
Yeah. I don't know. Keeps it safer. It is its own thing. You don't have any kind of sessions like this. This is its own thing. So it's a good way to split up the drivers. It's a way where us fans kind of know, hey, this is their number 2 driver. This is their number 1 driver. Just by the way they stack up the
Yeah,
sessions.
it'd be interesting to see. I've got a feeling that Stroll's going to have his acting gear this year.
He didn't get to do testing last year.
No, because he had broken wrists.
Yeah, so I mean, any kind of testing is better for him, but
No, but I think for the
better
whole
for Aston
season,
Martin. Yeah.
he's going to be better the whole season.
I think
I think Daddy might have turned around to him and said, "Son, pull your finger out."
I'm gonna
Stop
leave
listening
here
to your
soon.
mum.
Yeah.
Stop listening to your mum, who worries about
You're not
influence
gonna
on
you're not gonna play tennis, you Wally.
you.
You're
You're too
you're
old,
doing the
yeah?
coolest sport in the world right now. Yeah, you're too old. Um, but I Lance is kind of like an underrated driver, overhated, underrated. He beat Vettel in
Quite well.
points.
Yeah.
I think in points his last year. Um, I think he had a bad season just because that's such a hard injury to come over, and then Alonso's doing so well. But at the end of the
Tomorrow,
season, yeah, at the end of the season, we saw Stroll have a strong oncoming, and
yeah.
I think Aston Martin's looking pretty good, sneakily good.
So tomorrow's testing will be interesting to see how he does. It'll also be interesting to see how Checo does in the
Yeah,
Red Bull.
I was gonna say
Because
a lot of the drivers that have been left out, I guess two of them. Um, well, has Stroll tested yet?
no,
Okay, so
Alonso was all day today. So was Charles, and so was Max.
and
All
Russell.
day with Russell was all day as well.
So
Everyone else was splitting it.
Checo, Hamilton, Stroll, Science.
Checo, Hamilton, Stroll, Sainz, they'll be all day tomorrow.
It'll be interesting to see if yeah, Checo can keep up the domination of the car. Again, it looks very stable. So as long as you have a stable platform, however the car is designed away from you, you're still not bouncing around compared to other guys. So it'll be interesting to see if Checo can do the same thing as
Yeah,
Max
and
today.
I saw, or not saw, I read an interview that about Toto. Already he's getting downers.
Like he's playing it down like, oh, our
No, it's
car's
like
gonna be.
we've just seen what Red Bull have done, and
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure that like the first thing they must be thinking is, so we had it. We had the design. We just had bad ground effect.
we just had bad suspension.
So we were on the right path. Our idea was right. We just didn't have the right ground
Yeah,
effect
yeah.
and suspension.
Apparently, they had
The
more ground effect off their floor than anybody else.
Mercedes?
Yeah, and the trouble was, there was the one that was sucking it down, and oops, off we go. Whoop.
Oh, I see. It was so crazy that that's why they were bouncing.
That's why they were one of the worst on the bouncing and
Yeah.
taking longer to control. And then when you raise the ride height, they lost it.
Yeah, and
But
remember that famous Drive to Survive moment where Christian told Toto, then fix your car."
yeah,
Speculation is now in the air that was 40 chess from Christian going, "How about you fix your car, get this porpoising fixed, go into our design, and while you do that, we're gonna
well,
slip right under the rug that we're stealing your design."
I must admit, at the moment,
Oh, the mind
the design
games.
doesn't look anything like the old one.
No,
Except for
no.
those two things down the side.
It's
Now,
all speculation about what's going to happen to the car versus what we see right now. What we see right now, we haven't seen a car like it before. I will say, of all the cars, if you look at all the cars, the McLaren looks the most similar in body shape to that Red Bull design.
the RB19 or
The
new one.
the new Red Bull.
Yeah, so maybe they should.
Where it's like it has that weird shape around the halo and the driver where it kind of has a little tuck. They all have it, but I think McLaren went aggressive with that too. And so I think we're
Well,
going to see a lot of.
not as aggressive.
Well, they say about 60% of the downforce is on the floor. The
Yeah,
rest is kind of just there to be there. That's why no side pod was a good idea, because if you can figure out your entire car with the ground effect, you don't need the side pods to do
yeah.
anything other than
You
take air.
block the wind resistance then.
Yeah, exactly.
But the other thing is, Mercedes only ever had one inlet on their zero
Red Bull is what, 3?
three per
Yeah,
side.
aggressive.
Yeah, so They might have gone, yeah, we're going to go, but we need to get more air in there than what to smooth the airflow around the car better.
Yeah.
And we're not going to know really what the Red Bull's like till Japan.
Suzuka. Yeah, so a lot of people were saying we don't really. Well, I mean, it's a good track. There are slow speed corners, and there's a bit of medium to high speed in the middle of the track. So
But
it is
temperature wise,
exactly temperature wise. They're saying Suzuka Albert Park is where we're going to really see these cars do whatever they do.
yeah.
I I agree with that, but at the same time, let's not discount driving the Formula One car around a circle. It's good, still your design is still going to matter. It's not like, oh, all this effort doesn't matter until Suzuka. Suzuka's just the first real test.
Well, I think Australia, but they're
Albert
going with
Park,
saying
yeah.
Albert Park because Albert Park, just like Suzuka, they're just coming off the summer there,
Okay, so just
so
temperatures.
they've got temperature, so you'll still see the wider body kit on, and
Oh, for extra cooling.
yeah, and then
Oh, I
after
see.
that you go Suzuka, they narrow it down. Now, if it doesn't work, I bet you they'll have the other body kit with them.
Oh, I see. Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, I mean, you never know how that goes because you could have a rainy day and then it's just a cloudy day on the day of the race and it's colder than they expect. Those variables, like, it's hard to predict.
Well, they don't mind it being colder; they just don't want it to be hotter.
Right. Yeah.
And you might see by the end of the season when they come back down to Abu Dhabi and what's the other one? Dubai,
Singapore. Okay. Well, I
Singapore,
thought it was
Dubai.
Vegas second to last now.
No, Vegas is third to last.
But Vegas got cold.
Yeah, but what they did is they put the Dubai one later than that was what I was thinking of Dubai. That last year was Dubai, Vegas, and then Abu Dhabi. This year it's going to be Vegas, Dubai, Abu Dhabi,
Dubai.
Dubai.
Yeah. AI. Dubai.
Yeah, but it's Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi. You're saying Dubai, essentially. Dubai.
Oh,
Oh, doesn't
Dubai.
matter.
Oh,
Yeah,
I thought
it
it was
you know
Dubai.
it's Dubai. Oh well. Um, I mean, yeah, there's precedent to that, but I think you can tell a
Well, they've
lot
done
in these sessions where the cars are going to be
well
grid wise.
they've done that because the temperature last year was just unbelievably
Crazy.
hot.
Yeah, so
So
hot.
they've swapped those two races round for that reason.
Makes sense.
And you might see a bigger side pod design for the Red Bull back into those races.
Yeah.
Or
I,
maybe they found out they've got enough cooling, but they're not going to take a chance at the moment.
the big point was, did Red Bull need to be as aggressive as they were? Right. So we saw the livery reveal, and everyone went, "Did they have to?" Like their car was good to go. What a risk to take for a whole new redesign, and then to come out on the first day of testing and just look so
Because
much more stable compared to anything else.
yeah,
It's a
you have the other reason behind that is they had what they were saying is we couldn't do much more with our design,
yeah, they had maximized it, literally.
and everyone else was might catch us up and pass us.
Yeah, I reckon
So
this Red Bull design is what's gonna it's gonna be here for this year, next year, and then it's the new car.
yeah, but they're still keeping
This
the brand
design,
rights.
I know, but this design is essentially what's going to be Red Bull's next 2 year.
Yeah.
This new philosophy
Oh yeah. The unless it turns out in race trim that it really isn't very good, then
can't
they can just
follow
go
or whatever. Yeah,
back down and back down to the old design.
true. Yeah, I mean, there was definitely when they were in the harder temperature tires, Max was definitely struggling with the car. It's not like it was perfect. That said, first session in testing, figuring it out, first time going around the track in it consistently. When they were on the softer compound, way more control, obviously.
And again, you don't know how much fuel was in it.
Right, right. But
Maybe
that
if it's
that
on,
that spells that, hey, is this car perfect? Eh.
yeah,
But in low fuel, or we don't know if it was low or high fuel, but on softer compound tires, the car looked really good. On the harder compound, Max was having control issues.
so it's going to be interesting to find out. And we won't find out until we get to race trim
Yeah.
how it behaves with the white tires.
There's a moment when Max put up a new fastest lap, and it was like point 0.7 faster than the next person. And Max's race engineer just beaming with a smile. Like, oh, we've got something here. So I
Yeah,
think Red Bull's very confident in where they're at. They haven't shown everything yet.
but also
They
what
also,
you can say. Did you see the tire allocations they've got for this testing?
it's a little weird because they got two different compounds of hards, a
Yeah,
medium,
but
but the
Mercedes have
hard is
gone
amazing.
weird on their selection of tires. They've hardly got any of the, I'll put it, the off-white tires, but like they've taken reds, and no, hardly anyone else has taken red. They're really
Well,
super softs.
I think that's silly of some teams. If I were there, I'd want every single compound. Right.
Well, I mean,
I want a qualifying trim. I want my long distance trim. I want to find the middle ground. How does our car react between extremes? I get that, a lot of the teams are doing a lot of it on this hard compound, and you do see your car's design struggle more there. And I feel like if you're struggling more, that's where you can kind of tweak some stuff. But if you're on that soft compound, your car's just going to look better
yeah,
than it is. That said, it's like, hey, no, we want to see how fast our car can do in the fastest possible compound. And then we want to see how much it struggles. I think there's no problem there.
I'm curious for the season though, how much Mercedes going to have in team fighting.
Well, the rumors are that there's this guy, I think he's an F2. I don't know his name, but he's got Raikkonen in there somewhere. 17-year-old guy has super license points and whatnot. They're reckoning he's the next Hamilton. So there's beliefs that if he wins the championship in F2, that's he's going to go to Mercedes. There's obviously rumors that Mick might get it, but
I
Mercedes is not having this season. I can tell by the way they've done their driver lineup with George and Max essentially mirroring each other. Hamilton's completely number two now.
yeah,
George will get the favor this year.
he's not going to be looking at himself as number two.
Oh no, George is clearly the number one guy in his own mind. He already thought he was better than Lewis. That
Yeah,
said, I reckon this is the year where the team's fully behind George and Hamilton's going to get a science treatment.
and it's understandable as well.
Oh, I totally get it. Well, like the contract dispute, right? Lewis wanted a multi-year ambassador deal, multi-year plus ambassador. They offered him 1 year, no ambassador. One plus one, no
The
ambassador.
one, yeah, the
Ferrari
one
was a
plus one.
3+ ambassador. I mean, that it really is their own fault. But I think Mercedes was honestly thinking forward. Like Lewis Hamilton's great, but we can't rely. Alonso will meet his expiration date eventually. So will Lewis. They are the two oldest drivers right now. How long do you want to keep it going? How long do you want to keep on going? This is Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion. Sorry, George Russell. You're number two. How long do you want to say this is where we're at? Or do you want to say let's move on? And I think Mercedes is clearly doing future planning.
Yes,
You
and
know, screw this
it
car, screw this design, all in on 2026.
it will be interesting to see all the people that's vying for that Mercedes seat.
Ooh, there's rumors of Alonso. There's rumors of Mick. There's rumors of this F2 driver that's apparently a generational talent.
Sainz.
Science possibly. Well, science is the biggest rumor is that he's going to go to that Stake F1 Sauber
Mm,
Minardi. No, not Minardi.
no,
Um,
Minardi
RB,
was,
RB,
yeah,
Avatar.
RB,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sauber, Stake F1, Alfa Romeo. The rumor is that he's going to go there for Audi,
But
but
don't you find it strange though? They're creating all this fuss about RB, AlphaTauri, whatever, Toro Rosso. If it hadn't been for Red Bull buying that team, it would have gone from Formula One altogether.
yeah, I mean that's just how the sport goes, though.
But
There's always people leaving. There's always going to be people coming in.
but they weren't getting any new people in at the time when
Yeah,
they bought it.
true, true.
So they actually Red Bull saved a lot of um, Formula One by doing that. On the other hand, you
Yeah,
could turn around and say it does give them in the argument points to the F1 association. Well, basically, got two teams that are always going to vote the same way.
yeah, but so many teams have that set up.
Yeah.
It's just whatever.
No, but
Um,
all the Mercedes engine people, they don't fight Mercedes.
no. Speaking of the RB car, Liam Lawson, according to Helmet, his name again, uh,
Marco Helmut,
Marco Helmet. According to Marco Helmet, Liam Lawson has a seat for 2025. Doesn't matter where, he'll have a seat. Um, I think they are putting stress on the current drivers, saying, gotta perform. If everyone in the Red Bull performs, sorry, Liam, but I guarantee you they're a little tired of Yuki. They're obviously it's same situation with Lewis Hamilton, Daniel Ricciardo. They can move on, but I love that. I love that there's a
well,
little bit of
I
stress.
I've got a feeling that Yuki will be going to Aston Martin in 25
Yeah,
because Honda, he's a Honda man. He's
yeah,
been sponsored by Honda all his. So where's Honda going? Aston Martin.
yeah. There's a
So,
reason why Alonso's looking around right now.
yeah, there there might. I've got a feeling also Honda will want another team to have their engines.
And what if it's McLaren and all of a sudden Aston Martin McLaren have
No,
this weird?
McLaren signed up with.
Oh yeah, Mercedes engines. Yeah.
It could be Williams. They had a long-established relationship with Honda.
You never know. Honda clearly figured something out with that engine that's in the Red
Yeah.
Bull right now. Red Bull, I think, is wise on committing the way they have, but you never know. Can Ford really? I mean, Ford has dominated motorsport whenever they put their money into it.
But they're only, don't forget, Ford's only doing the battery power.
I thought it was a engine. Oh, Red Bull's designing their own engine. Ford's doing battery power. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. And
Um,
of course, the Ford name goes on the engine because they're putting a whole lot of money in. But the engine is going to be developed by, I bet it's almost like a clone of the Honda, to be honest.
I'm sure. I'm sure it's going to be similar to what they have now, so that their design doesn't go all crazy.
And don't forget that the one of their engine men is the top Honda guy. He stayed with Red Bull. So
Cool. Well, whenever you look at Ford's involvement, whether Cosworth engine back in the day, or better to look at the Le Mans 24 hours.
yeah.
Whenever Ford puts its money behind the car, they get results. So I
Well,
don't think that partnership's going to be something that's detrimental.
apart from their current win at Le Mans, class wise, that's the only time they've actually designed the car themselves.
Yeah.
The GT40s were not designed by Ford. They
Was it
just put them in.
Shelby? Shelby.
Well, they got somebody, mainly a Lola design, modified by Shelby,
Yeah,
and the guy who died.
the driver.
Yeah, he was also a designer.
Yeah, well, I would still say that's Ford, massively Ford.
Oh yeah,
The money was Ford,
all Ford
but
money.
I know what you mean. Like the recent win was a brand new. Well, it's interesting because they always say when Ford does things by committee, it's bureaucratic hell, and that's when they don't have good
Yeah,
results. Whereas this new project was, it's almost like, oh crap, we did put money behind it. How are they doing? Ooh, they won.
yeah,
So
and
yeah,
it's like their current GT car that was designed basically in the back room without letting anyone know.
yeah, it was like,
So
oh, we're working on something. Yeah,
yeah, can we
and
race it?
how's it doing? Pretty good. We're not telling anyone about it because we know what will happen when we do.
And it did. It say it won its class at Le Mans. Um, it won all over the place for that design.
Yeah,
And to be honest, it looks cool. That car does.
Ford GT's just amazing looking car, but I wouldn't want one because it's just not comfortable.
Well, neither of us will be able to get in them.
Clarkson
If you're over
struggled.
6 foot, if you're over 6 foot, yeah,
Like Clarkson fit
Clarkson,
into it, but he didn't.
he's
He said
fine.
his butt fell asleep as he was driving
Yeah,
it, and yeah. But yeah, so let's see. Red Bull looking good and dominant. Mercedes needs to get a lot out of this testing. Not don't want to make conclusions about them yet.
no,
Ferrari looking a bit bouncy. I'm sure they'll figure that out, but fast. Um, bit of they were struggling with locking of the brakes.
in
Ferrari,
Ferrari.
Ferrari was, yeah, a lot of flat spotting on hard braking.
That's just going to get the balance
Yeah.
sorted out. And
Um,
maybe when they do that, they'll also get the bouncing sorted out at the same time.
yep. Aston Martin looking dominant. McLaren, same thing, dominant, pretty good, not too bouncy. Kind of falling in line with what our expectations were. So that's five. Williams could have done a lot better.
Yeah,
Pretty much chalk it up for bad luck, but you know how they say it: get it out
and
early rather than during the season.
and I'm hoping that Sargent's off track incident was a one off, and he's got his acting gear better today
Yeah,
this season.
yeah, he's always been an aggressive driver, so it's like, do you really want him to let up, or do you want him to drive nervous for the rest of the year? So I see that as he's not afraid to push it.
Yeah,
While learning the car, there's been an off season, but so that's Williams. Stake F1. I don't know how that. I don't know how. I saw their times are pretty decent. Car looks good.
but
Um,
again, times don't mean anything.
doesn't matter. Car looked good though. That's the big point.
It looks stable.
Seven. RB. I think looks really good. Ricardo's very confident about it, but that's also Daniel Ricardo. Um, their design is following their own path with the Red Bull parts.
Yeah,
Um,
but they all look like last
and
year's
I would
cars.
say they now have veteran drivers. Yuki's no longer a rookie. Far from it
No,
now.
this is fourth year.
Yeah, so solid lineup for them. Should be able to push themselves. Looking good. Let's see. Alpine.
Renault, Alpine, yeah,
Um,
not looking good.
not looking good. That said, whenever I watch Ocon make a mistake, I'm happy. Um,
Well, it was him today, wasn't it?
wasn't it
Or
both
this
of them?
morning?
And they split.
This morning. This morning. I'll have to check that out. I've not seen the whole testing yet.
Car looked boring to look at. That said, like you said, they've had some upgrades where they were weak last year, so they have a wide nose. A lot of teams are rocking a wide nose. Theirs is
Yeah.
huge last year, so they might be onto something there. Um, I guess it's Haas just left, right?
I'll have to just. I think it's just a waste of space.
Haas is essentially destined for 10th. Their fix that they need to fix is their tire deg. Like it's great for qualifying that your tires can warm up, that you can rock that lap. But if you can't do a race, that's it.
I'm going to make a bold prediction.
Yeah.
I think that RB will end up fourth this year.
So you're saying above Aston Martin? What's your top three? Red Bull, McLaren,
So
Ferrari?
I think it'll go Red Bull, Ferrari, then Mercedes because they will be up and around. I don't regardless. And then I think it's going to be the Alpha Tauri or the whatever.
No, so I don't buy that at all. I think it's going to be a fun contest between Mercedes, Ferrari, and McLaren battling for second, third, fourth, and then RB will lead the middle of the pack.
Yeah. I think they'll definitely beat Alpine.
Yeah, Alpine's just not looking that good.
No,
Not They fixed their mistakes, which will be mostly for race trim, but the car doesn't look that drivable. That said, again, it's just testing. But it's getting there. We're getting there. We're seeing the cars move around, and yeah, RBs will be good. I don't think they're gonna they're not gonna develop with the
no,
same
and
pace as Ferrari, McLaren, and Mercedes will.
yeah, that's it's but I don't know. I still got a feeling that the Toro Rosso will take the lead from last year, the end of last year, and they'll be much better this year. But don't forget they started way down. They were 10th at one
Oh yeah,
stage,
they were the worst car at the beginning of last year, and
and
by Mexico they were dominating.
yeah.
Not
So I've
dominating,
got a
but much
good
better.
feeling about them.
I've got a good
And
feeling about them, but I think you're over judging it.
well,
You're downplaying how good Ferrari was with their upgrades last year.
I think that Ferrari will be second, and I think
Second, third, or
Mercedes will be
fourth.
third.
Second, third, or fourth.
I think
McLaren's second, third. I think second, third, or fourth is up for grabs. First, I think is completely locked in, but we'll have to see what Checo does tomorrow. But
yeah,
yeah, that's my predictions.
he has to do better this season to
Well, every Red Bull driver except for Max is essentially under pressure.
yeah.
Ricardo's old, so he has to really prove it. Yuki's probably moving on to Aston Martin. So that means Liam Lawson does find a seat, but is anyone else sticking around? Does Checo get demoted and then someone else gets put in the Red Bull? It's going to be interesting. And it's
Oh,
all on the drivers,
and
not
it's
the
all started
cars.
early because of Hamilton.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's all up to the drivers. The car, if it doesn't perform well, oh well, beat your teammate.
I just have this picture of Alonso going when he heard the
Well,
news.
yes and no, because his seat is not secure with Honda coming in.
Oh, I think
But where does he go? He can't go to Renault. Can't go to Alpine.
no Mercedes.
Mercedes, if they want him, or they go young. So he might it might be Sainz and Alonso and Audi.
Yeah, that would be a good combination because
Spaniards.
you don't know. Has I'm going to call it Sauber as well. Has the Sauber been bad because of their drivers or because of the bad design?
Eh, Bottas was doing good at first and then fell off,
Yes.
and then Joe started outperforming Bottas. It's hard to speculate. The car is going to be better this year than it was last year, so we'll
Yeah.
see if Bottas has a really good year, what happens to him? Right now everyone's mentality is they're both gone. Hope you enjoyed
Yeah.
your time, but if they have good years, silly season will be silly. That's for sure.
I think it's going to be a silly year. Never mind a silly season.
That's gonna be fun. It's already looking fun. Um, but yeah, I think
And with that,
that's
I think we can say call it quits for the day.
yeah, I think that's testing. It's still happening. You can watch the first two sessions right now, F1 TV, and then there's more testing tomorrow, more drivers. But
And Friday.
the cars are on track and they look fast.
Yeah, so I'm going to be watching the rest of the testing all through the night now, or the evening. And then tomorrow, got to go down to the boat, clean the boat up.
Okay. Well, are we gonna tell people on the internet what our plans are? Or?
No, no.
No.
So let's say goodbye.
Goodbye.
And
Thank you for
see you
watching,
soon.
and it should be exciting.
Yeah. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe.
Yep. All right. Have a good day.
Right.